Hey everybody, Will here, and today I am pleased to have with me the new DJI Inspire 1 quadcopter. Now, before you go and judge me for spending all my GoFundMe money on a new drone, that is not what happened. This is not mine. This actually belongs to a friend of mine named Cliff Trayman. He is a very talented cinematographer who lives in the Bay Area and does a lot of commercial work. And basically, he's been using these things in his productions for some time now. Not Inspires, but drones in general. The way he tells it is he got tired of standing over the shoulder of a drone operator telling him how to, frame the shot exactly as he wants, which is his job, and the movement he wants, when they're becoming so affordable and easy to fly. So he actually ended up getting a Phantom 2 and modifying it similarly to the way I have modified my Phantom 1 with, a good FPV setup, an OSD and all that. And he's been flying for, I think, probably a year and a half or 2 years now, I think. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw a clip of his reel on the screen now. And as you can see, he's quite good. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to the full video in case you want to check it out, and I really recommend that you do. And basically, I've been flying around with him a bit. He's also been forwarding me some jobs that he hasn't been able to handle and going with him on jobs with these things. And that's a whole big thing. I'm probably going to do a video a little bit down the road, kind of tips and tricks with doing actual work with these things. Yeah, you can get some amazing shots with these things, but both of us were kind of having issues with our current rigs. And we've been kind of talking about maybe both of us getting something, or more specifically right now, him getting something. And what that would be, there's quite a few options right now, including the Phantom 3, which just recently came out. But what we ended up getting was the Inspire 1. And I'm going to show it to you now, but in a bit I'm going to talk to you exactly why we decided to get this one over some of the other ones, including the Phantom 3. But this is the Inspire 1, which is what we got to hopefully take our quadcopter game to the next level. The Inspire 1 is DJI's most expensive ready-to-fly kit. They have quite a few much more expensive rigs that are meant to hold like Canon DSLRs or even Reds that are like octocopters and stuff like that. But this is their more expensive, completely ready-to-fly kit. And it comes in basically two flavors, a single remote control version and a dual remote control version. And really quickly, the single remote control version is $2,900 and the dual remote control version is $3,400. That is a little bit pricey for the extra remote control, but actually the extra remote control by itself is like $650. So if you know you're going to want to use it with two remote controls, you should definitely get the dual remote control version. But the main reason for having two remote controls, by the way, and this is the main reason we ended up getting it, and the main reason I have it with me right now, is because it's meant for two pilots. You can completely use it by itself, but to get the most amazing shots possible, what you really need is somebody who is flying the aircraft and someone who is operating the camera. Similarly to if you see any movement basically in a professional video production, any sort of movement that you possibly see, it's usually not a cameraman walking around or a cameraman with something rolling by himself. Usually it's a cameraman on a dolly, and then there's a guy whose job it is just to dolly back and forth. Because to get those exact precise shots that you want, you really need to have a lot of hands. And so in this case, a lot of fingers. So that's the kind of goal with it. This is his, and we're going to hopefully be working on it and training together and kind of become a team with it and hopefully get some much more amazing shots than we could possibly with a single operated drone. But going back to the kit we got, we ended up getting the dual controller kit as well as 4 extra batteries. The battery that it comes with is a 4,500 milliamp battery. These are 6-cell batteries like in the new Phantom 3. And the 4,500 milliamp batteries, by the way, are $160. The ones we got are the 5,700 milliamp batteries, which are $200. And in case you're wondering, by the way, this is something I didn't know until after we ordered it too. You're probably thinking there's a little bit of a price difference there, but really, why would you want a smaller battery? Well, the reason is actually because of laws with taking batteries on planes. Basically, you can have as many 4,500 milliamp batteries as you want with these things. This is basically, they're made to be at the limit, where if it's any bigger, you're limited to 2 batteries on the plane. But going back to the kit, we got the Inspire 1 dual controller kit, and that actually comes with the complete Inspire 1 controller kit, plus just an extra controller on the side. The kit itself comes with the Inspire 1, one controller, one battery, 2 sets of props, chargers, additional cables and all that, a slightly complicated harness that I haven't used yet, as well as a camera. And that's actually one of the really cool things of this rig. It's got a really amazing camera on it. The camera itself shoots 4K video at 30 frames per second, along with a number of other modes. And basically it's really handcrafted to be an aerial camera. It's pretty comparable to the Hero 4. I think it actually has the same exact sensor on the Hero 4. But unlike the Hero 4, it doesn't have that horribly wide action camera lens. That's one really big plus on this. I mean, I use the Hero 4 in medium mode. Actually, my favorite mode is 2.7K mode at 60 frames per second. On one hand, actually, this doesn't have that mode, and I'm a little annoyed by that. But on the other hand, I actually can shoot 4K now. I mean, 4K on the Hero 4 Black at 30 frames per second. Again, that wide, super wide angle, you just don't use it. It doesn't look very good in real productions. So this, on the other hand, it's got the right field of view, and the gimbal that it comes with too is just astonishing. You can see actually the way it wobbles too. That was one of my concerns actually when I was seeing videos of it. It seems like it's crazy, and actually when it's flying in the wind too, you'll see it really rock around, but the footage from it is really, really rock solid and really crisp. But going back to the kit, in addition to all that stuff I just said, it actually comes with a case too, which is pretty nice. I got it right here. It's actually not the best case. It's better than nothing, I have to say, and I think that's actually why they included it. I actually have my old rig right here. You can see I take my Phantom 1 around in an IKEA laundry bag, which actually is about the right size too, as you can see. But I think the idea is that they're gonna have to, you know, spend some money on appropriate packaging for this anyway, so why not force them to actually have a case right out of the box? It's not the best case. It's actually something we're gonna be replacing soon. We're a little bit concerned about the zipper, and also considering how big it is and it doesn't have wheels, my biggest gripe with this thing is it's pretty big for something that I have to completely disassemble the quadcopter to get it in there. In addition to taking off the props, you also have to take off the camera and gimbal, and that's a huge pain in the field. So to talk a little bit more about the quadcopter, you can see it's got a pretty unique design. I'm going to show it to you working in a minute, but the entire landing gear lifts up above the body and leaves that camera completely dangling below on the bottom. And in addition to, again, just having someone else on a second controller completely controlling the camera here, the cool thing about this is once the landing gear is up, you can just start rotating the camera around and doing full 360s. And it's just a completely different experience over having to use something like a Phantom where the camera is really fixed right in the front of the plane. But in addition to that, it's a much bigger quadcopter. As you can see, I just weighed my Phantom 1, and my modified Phantom 1 is right now about 2.3 pounds, and this is about 6.5 pounds. It's got a number of great features. It's got light bridge. Basically, the light bridge just gives you great video right from the camera directly to your controller on what I use is my Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4, but you can use it on an iPad too, or even you can use it on like a FlySight Black Pearl. The controllers, which I'll get a little bit more into it, even have an HDMI out. But it sends that wireless HD video signal, which looks really, really amazing compared to the analog signal that I'm used to. And the range on it is also incredible. Basically, you'll get pretty much close to full HD range up until where my Phantom 1 starts really crapping out is around 400 meters. And I'll pretty much get the HD signal all the way up to that point. And then I've got a lot more way to go with a slightly degraded signal, which is still pretty much as good as that old RF analog signal that I was using. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the controllers now and talk about those. You can see it comes here with the iPad or iPhone holder, and you can see it's got these little tabs here to hold a phone. If you wanted to do that, this opens up and it clamps it down really secure. And the controller itself has got a built-in battery as well. It's a rechargeable controller. One of the cables that they give you is a little cable to take battery power from this to to the controller in the field. I haven't really had a problem with that. These seem to have no problems lasting a full day with a number of flights. So far I've been okay there. But you can see on the back here, in addition to the HDMI out that it also has another USB in. Actually, I'm not sure what that's for yet. It also has a CAN bus port on the controller. The CAN bus port is the port on my Phantom that you would plug in like a gimbal to, or you would plug in the OSD to. It's basically the DJI's accessory port. I'm not sure, I don't think it has one on here. Basically, this is meant not really to be touched, but it has one on the controller, which is pretty cool. And then it finally has the USB port right there, which is used for a couple of things. I used it for the firmware updates as well as communicating with your iPad or your Android device. So to get this kit pretty much up and running, you take it out of the box, and the two things you'll have to install to it are, first of all, the propellers as well as the gimbal. And to do that, you have to turn it on and unpack it and put it in landing gear down mode. And then you take the camera and gimbal module and you can line up a couple of lines on the camera as well, as it has this collet here on the drone. And you basically pop that on, and that is basically setting it up. Now, when I first got it, you should always update firmware on these things, and that actually on this thing took some time. It takes about 20 minutes to update the firmware, which is the longest I've ever had to wait for anything to update the firmware. But you update the firmware using the micro SD card that comes with it. It comes with a 16 gigabyte micro SD card, which is pretty cool. And then you also have to do the same thing to the controllers. And actually, I think you have to do the same thing to the batteries too. These batteries are actually pretty cool. They're, again, pretty expensive for the amount of milliamps you're getting. But at the end of the day, they're actually just better, and they put that money to use. They've got some circuit boards in there, unlike general LiPo batteries like the ones I use for my Phantom 1. It's just a bare LiPo that you basically have to take care of. This, it's got a lot of circuitry that's basically doing stuff for the battery, making sure it's conditioned right. And that includes, first of all, tracking how many times it's been charged, and as well as one big thing that they do, which is really cool, is LiPos, you're not really supposed to charge them full and then store them. And so the cool thing that they have in here is one feature, and you can adjust the number of days you do it. But after about 10 days of being fully charged, if you haven't used it yet, it's going to automatically discharge itself. Not fully, but to the point where it's safe and you're not going to be ruining the battery. So definitely some cool features with these batteries. One thing I should say that we're finding very annoying right now is that because of that higher voltage right now, there's no car chargers, and even it comes with like the AC charger right here. Just like a normal brick AC charger. You can see it has two ends, by the way. One of them is for the controller, one of them is for the battery, though I should warn you, it's not made to power both at the same time or charge both at the same time. You have to do them one at a time or the power supply will overheat. Apparently, it definitely does get warm when you're charging either one, so I believe that. But because of the voltage of these things, which is 26.3 volts, it seems like they're harder to charge on the go. I've tried to charge them both with a like a cigarette lighter adapter, which has a plug that I can plug that into, and it will not charge because the ones that use the cigarette plugs pretty much are limited to 100 watts or 110 watts, and these require just a little bit more. So that option is out. I've even tried a power inverter that I have, which basically I think has that technology built in, but also it seems to be limited by the same amount. It's a pretty big one too, so I would assume a lot of them are like that. So there's definitely some alligator clamp power inverters that I'm sure you can use, but for right now, that's one major hassle with these things, and I would think the Phantom 3 as well. But going back to the setup, that's going to be pretty much it there, and then you're going to be able to pretty much start flying. I'm going to go ahead and power it on right now. Same way you do on the Phantom 2, it's like a one quick click and then a hold, and I'll turn on. You can see there it's powering up and the gimbal is orienting itself. One other thing that I should mention too that it comes with, it's got a filter here on the camera. It's just a clear filter to protect the lens underneath. And in addition to that, it has an ND filter too. Here's the ND filter right here. Comes in the little box in the case that holds the gimbal. But an ND filter, in case you don't know, is basically neutral density filter is what it's called. It's basically sunglasses for your camera. and it's something you really usually need when you're shooting outdoors. It makes it so not all that light from the very bright outdoor light is getting to your camera, so you can choose appropriate shutter speeds. The cool thing again about this one, in addition to being able to control the camera separately, you have full manual controls over the camera. It's got a fixed aperture, but you can adjust the shutter speed and the ISO on it, as well as you can put a great filter on it. So, but there we have the drone on. Same thing on the controller, and this is the master controller right here. And you can see it's red right now. It should link up in just 1 second. There it turned green and the lights started changing. But that is it right here. This is on, and technically I could just go out and start flying it right now. So you can control everything, and I'm not going to yet. I'm going to be flying it in quite a few videos, including an indoor flight is going to be the first video after this. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to fly, and it's got all of the controls too for the camera. You can start recording in the air. It's got a record button. It's got a gimbal wheel, so you can operate the gimbal by yourself. You can see it there. It's going pretty slow because I have it custom set to go pretty slow because, you know, to get really good shots, that's what you're going to be using. You're not going to be using a fast flick of the camera. It's got a lot of other controls. You can take a snapshot in the air as well. It's got that. You can also review the video. You need the tablet to do that, but you can review the video you just shot from on the ground while you're in the air, which is pretty cool. But going back to the rest of the buttons and everything on the controller, your normal 2 sticks that you're probably used to, and then this last one is going to be for the landing gear going up and down. I can't really do anything with that without it flying in the air right now, but this little switch here would make the landing gear go up and down, and then that's a come home button, which actually works really great on this thing. And then lastly, the charge port right there. Just to show you really quickly, now that I have it on, I want to go ahead and show you the landing gear working. I'm going to pop off the camera here. This is the collet, and you just kind of pull it down there and drop the camera off. It has protective caps for both this side and there that come with the kit. But now that the camera is off, I can show you the landing gear down and up mode. First of all, this is landing gear down, and then this is going to be landing gear up, which is pretty cool. Definitely a lot of people enjoy seeing this the first time. Basically, the camera will then mount here, and you can rotate a full 360, and the landing gear won't really be in the shot. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it one more time, back to down. This is landing gear down. Now, it's important, one thing I didn't quite realize is that neither of those modes will fit in the case. If you want it to actually go into the case, you have to go to a third landing gear mode, which can only be achieved when you actually have it on a flat surface, which is another reason I absolutely hate taking the gimbal on and off and putting it in this case. But it has to be standing on the flat surface, and you can click down there, and it detects where the table is and stops, and now that is ready to be packed up mode. Now, if you're wondering how it did that, one of the other features of this thing that I don't think I've said yet is these cameras underneath. You can see it has a little camera lens right there, as well as these 2 little speaker looking things on the bottom. That's basically for like a sonar system. It actually can tell you when you're flying indoors where the ground is, how far it is, and it can use that to fly as opposed to GPS. It can see what's underneath it. And that is a really amazing feature, first of all, for indoor flight and even outdoor flight if you're having issues with GPS. And then we could go ahead and put on the camera. And actually, I gotta face it towards me. Again, I hate doing this in the field, especially when it's on the ground. You don't have a proper table area. But and there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tablet now again. And this tablet is, once again, it is the Galaxy Tab S8.4. It was $350. I actually had this anyway. But after researching this a little bit more, because Cliff wanted to get one just for the kit. He didn't have an iPad either, but he wanted to get one just to leave in the kit because he doesn't like the idea of, you know, forgetting it or not having it charged or something, which is very smart. But after researching a little bit, I ended up having him order another one of these because a lot of people are using this with the iPad, and the iPad's $500, by the way, for the iPad Air and $400 for the Mini. But basically, this has a much brighter AMOLED screen, and it's a bit higher resolution too than either iPad. But the brightness is what I'm really after. Again, using these out in the sun, you can see I've got some Velcro going on here. This is for a sunshade in progress that I'm working on. I'm gonna have to show it in a future video. But with these things, you need them to be absolutely as bright as possible, and these are a little bit brighter than the iPad Mini, and also cheaper, and also lighter and thinner. So I definitely recommend this one if you are using the Inspire one. I'm going to go ahead and open up the DJI Pilot app to get this up and running and go ahead and put this on the controller. Make sure you clamp it down really tight, but otherwise it's a very snug and safe fit. I definitely like the stand on this thing. My one gripe here too is that you can't quite fold it down. It's like you can see the tips of the controller things. Well, just if it was 1 millimeter higher, you'd be fine. Which again, that's why I don't like it, because they could have so easily made this safe. But yeah, otherwise it's a really, really nice holder though. But going back to the setup here, to actually communicate with the tablet, unlike the Visions, I think it uses Wi-Fi. You actually use the USB cord here. It comes with, again, a couple of small, shorter USB cords for this purpose. But it plugs into the USB and then plugs into the tablet there. Now, if you are on Android like me, you need to enter USB debugging mode in the settings and enable that, so you can do this. In iPads, I think it's automatic, but it asks you if you want to trust the computer when you plug in the USB cord. But apart from that, you do that and it gets up and working, and then you can go ahead and click camera here and it should pull up our video feed. There you can see it gives you your basic flight information, but if I close that right there, you can see the HD video feed. So excuse my weird leaving the controller on the table thing. I'm recording it now with that so you can see the screen. And you can also see, I'm going to go ahead and start to record, but you can also see Adira over there working on the camera thing. But you can see, again, this feed is super clear on here. It has a slight, I don't want to say I mean, it has a very slight delay. More importantly, you're only seeing X frames per second. I don't know how many it would possibly be, maybe like as many as 10 frames a second, which is a little bit annoying. But again, the gimbal on this thing is amazing. You don't need to see every frame. And actually, I've learned to really appreciate the way even the signal on this thing, you lose the signal. Unlike the other one where you'll slowly start to get static, and when you're at the end of that range, and also you could be turning too, all of a sudden you'll turn and you'll just get static. When you lose the signal here, you still get the image. It holds the last image it had, and then it just updates the image as opposed to going to static or anything like that. So it's definitely a really nice and clear display here. I'm gonna actually go ahead and turn on the second controller as well. Same system with the second controller. Now, the interesting thing with this setup is you can see it's locking on there. That means it's connected as the second slave controller. This is all settings I can change in a minute too with each one. But the interesting thing is the second controller actually doesn't communicate with the Inspire. It only communicates to the controller, and the controller communicates to the Inspire. So that is that. But now that we have this one hooked up, you can see, let's see, there we go. You can see now that the camera can move separately. And again, the landing gear is down, so you definitely see the landing gear there. And another really cool thing about this camera too that I didn't mention, unlike the Phantom that I have, the camera can actually go up and look upwards, which is a really amazing shot to get sometimes. In that case, you have to have the camera pointing to the front, because even when the landing gear is up, you will get the landing gear in the shot when you're looking up. But again, for looking at the ground or even looking level at the horizon, you can then just go full 360 a couple of times, and it eventually hits like a little block because of the wiring there. Then it'll just whip around, and actually there's a button here. Let me show you. If I turn it all the way back around, the master controller has a couple more buttons on the bottom. One of them whips it back into its centered position, so that, again, if you are in dual operator mode and you're having any issues, because that's how you know where the front of the craft is the front of the craft when you're at a site, is where the camera is facing, and you need it to be facing forward. You just whip it around like that, and that does that. So cool features there. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording for a second here and show you a few more things. First of all, let's actually fix the video because it's not set up properly here. You can see it's on auto. You can also use exposure compensation right there, and you can see it's underexposed by a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that back up to 0, which is why the screen looked so dark right there. But in addition to auto, you can of course go manual, and again, this is there we go, manual. Again, this is a fixed aperture, so you're not going to see aperture there, but usually the shutter speed is locked in actually anyway, even in auto, and it's just messing with the ISO at that point. But you can go in full manual mode and then still mess with the shutter as well as the ISO, and you can see your EV meter right there will also tell you what's up. But that's also good in some situations. So far, I've just flown it in an auto mode and used the exposure compensation a few times. But that is that situation as well. If you hit the FN button here, this is where you get to look at all the different modes. And in color mode, that's the first thing you're going to want to do is switch it to log style, which gives you that flat picture profile. And then, the white balance. And in addition to the style here, I've also put to custom, turned all the sharpness and everything down, which is another thing. Again, if you shoot on like cameras and use the CineStyle picture profiles or anything like that, that's what this is. It gives you a nice flat image so you can grade it in post. But and this menu is also where you're going to choose the different recording modes. Now, this is one thing that I was a little bit annoyed with. Again, I'm missing a 2.7K mode. That would have been great because right now you have 4K. You can either do full 4K, which is the wider cinematic 4K at 24 frames per second, which is nice, or you can do the traditional 16:9 4K at either 24 or 30 frames per second. But then if you want a high frame rate, which is kind of lame with this thing, you have to drop all the way down to 1080p. And in 1080p, it only goes up to 60 frames per second. So on that front, again, the GoPro is going to be limited too because you're stuck in that wide aspect ratio, whereas this is not as wide. But that's, again, a little bit disappointing. But that's hopefully something that they can update in firmware. And again, the cool thing about this one is that the camera is removable. So this is the sort of thing that if they ever make a new camera, we're probably going to be getting it for this thing because again, it sounds like a lot of money. The cost of this, again, $3,000. But again, consider the world that this is going to be working in. This is working not alongside GH4s like I'm recording on, which is a $1,200 camera. This is not recording even next to like 5D Mark IIIs. This is recording next to like Reds and stuff like that. And $3,000 for, first of all, basically a vehicle plus a camera is a really great deal. Let's go back to the menus real quick. You can see a few different things. First of all, I click there. This is the screen that came up when it first booted that tells you the status and tells you some basic controls and everything like that. If I go here to the controller, this is where you would choose whether your controller is a master or a slave. Now, the one kind of lame thing too about the Inspire that I figured out, basically, let's say I'm out and I'm flying by myself and I have two controllers in the box and one of my controllers dies. Instead of just charging it, why don't I just grab the second controller and start flying with it? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Basically, the master controller pairs uniquely to the Inspire, and the way you do that too is there is a little hidden button right up here on the right side up underneath this bolt on the inside. You can see it's a little red button and you need like a little pencil or something and you click that and you sync up the controllers. But then that's how you have to do that each time. So pretty much you're stuck with the master controller and then the slave controller. But if you do want to change it and you want to change the settings and everything like that, you can go in here and this is where you do the pairing of this controller to this controller if you have to redo that. In addition, it's got a few other control settings here. The gimbal wheel speed, let's see, that's a big one. I have it to 40, the default is 50, which is pretty good. You can also do it all the way up. Again, you can see how fast that is. I wouldn't really film with this, but I guess if you're like doing surveillance or something, that could be useful. Then if I go here to the video screen, this is where it just shows you some automatic information about how the reception is with the drone. It automatically configures and chooses your channels for you. Again, that has to do with basically you're pairing the controller to the Inspire, and then it's just kind of automatically figuring out which channels to be on, which I've left by itself so far. Actually, somehow it switched to 19 when it should have been on auto. I'm going to put it back to auto. For some reason, it wasn't. But here you can also see the options for the video out, simultaneously image output to app and HDMI. That's something you definitely can do. So pretty cool features there. Also information on the battery, and this is where I can check time to discharge. That's what I was telling you about earlier. The batteries can auto discharge. Times charged, 7 times this battery has been charged already, as well as setting your warning indicators. And then apart from that, it has a few different flying modes too to, again, work with navigating. If I go back to my own controller right here, again, in addition to whipping it back around to center, it also has the option to fly with the camera in free mode. And that basically what that does, if I turn that on right here, this shows you the different modes. Also, my right button switches between 2 of the modes. But basically, this is in normal mode, and what you probably expect is when I'm flying around, the camera has a little bit of a buffer there, so it doesn't turn quite as fast, but it's going to recenter itself with the aircraft. And that also doesn't change no matter where I turn the camera. Like, see, right now it's pointed at the landing gear. If I turn it around, it's still gonna follow that spot. It's still gonna be pointing to the left of the drone no matter where the drone flies. In addition to that, it's got FPV mode, which is a little bit weird. I don't think I'll ever use that, but it locks it in the center, and it always locks it in the center. But the difference is it actually yaws with, doesn't it? It's supposed to yaw with the plane. Maybe it only does it when it's flying, but it actually tilts a little bit to the side. It's not perfectly smooth, and it kind of, it tilts along with the craft. The last other mode that I want to show you, or actually that's the last mode, is the free camera mode. And if I do that real quick, let me turn the camera, actually let's leave it center. You can see that as I'm flying around, the camera always points in the same direction. So, actually let's put it back towards me to make that a little bit. Yeah, so that's always going to be pointing at me no matter what's going on here. So eventually you'll reach a stop point and it'll be like, no, I can't do that. And it's reached it right there. But yeah, apart from that, you can spin it all around, and that's how that works. So I'm gonna take some practice with all the different modes and figuring out how to use them. So a lot of really great tools on the app. I can't really show you everything right now, there's so much. Yeah, cool setup here. I will say the one thing I don't like so far about my setup that I've noticed, and this, again, I gave the Galaxy Tab 8.4 a lot of props just now, but one issue that I am having is battery life with my tablet. The controller seems to have no problem lasting a full day when I'm working with it. Again, I'm not flying the entire day, we're going from location to location. But the tablet, I have noticed the app drains the power like crazy. So make sure when you're going between locations, if you're gonna be out all day, make sure you shut down the app or turn off the tablet. And I'm not sure if that applies on iPads too, they might do it differently. So that is kind of my little introduction into the Inspire system we got. I'm gonna be having this thing quite a bit. Like I said, me and Cliff are working on this together, but I'm kind of like the tech and setup guy and figuring everything out and all that. So I'm gonna have it quite a bit, and I'm gonna be doing quite a bunch of videos here, including a quick indoor flying vid for you guys to test out that system, as well as a bunch of course, flying videos outdoors. But I think a lot of people are going to be asking me why we got the Inspire. It definitely, again, is a bit pricey. This whole kit ended up being around $4,000. And again, you definitely need at least, I would say at the minimum, 3 extra batteries. Why did we get this? Why didn't we get, for instance, the Phantom 3, which seems like a great choice right now, and it absolutely is, as well as a few other things. First of all, going to the Phantom 3, we were going to get this, and then we decided to wait because we heard the rumor that the Phantom 3 might be announced. And sure enough, it was. So first of all, the Phantom 3 is actually amazing. I would recommend most people probably get it. If you're interested in doing some serious video work, get the Phantom 3 Pro. It looks incredible and has a lot of the stuff that I just talked about. It has the light bridge, it has the indoor flying stuff going on, there's extra sonar sensors. And it's really, really an amazing deal for what it is. One of the other options we were looking at was building something, possibly something, again, mainly getting the GoPro working amazingly was the big thing, because the GoPro is great, but also maybe getting something that can hold a 5D Mark III or a GH4 or an A7S was the other choice. And we were looking at things like DJI has a few other half-ready kits. Actually, it's kits that you build yourself, but it has most of the parts, like a flame wheel, for instance, or they also have like the S9000. And those are kind of good choices too, but first of all, we wanted to get up and running a little bit sooner than it would have been able to do with those. But also, one of our biggest issues with our current setup was the wireless video system. The SD video plus the not great range is just not really working out for us. And at the end of the day, if we were going to get one of those systems, it would have probably been a Lightbridge adapter. And if you look at the Lightbridge adapter, if you buy just the receiver and transmitter, it's about $1,000. It's like, I think, $1,100. So take that into consideration when you're looking at the Phantom 3. Again, it has that system built in, and it's not bolted on, it's not ugly, it's built in and has it, again, in the controller and everything. But apart from that, why would we get the Inspire? I think at the end of the day, first of all, the dual operator mode is definitely a big thing. It's something that we're gonna have to get good at it for it to be worth it, but just having the camera below and not having the camera fixed to be the front of the craft is gonna open up a lot of possibilities for us, I think. and also just having the precision of a full hand dedicated to just the moving of the camera as opposed to just your finger, I think is going to do a lot for us. So that was probably reason number one. Reason number two is also the size. One thing I definitely mentioned was the Phantom was what, close to about 2.5 pounds, whereas this one's close to about 6.5 pounds. The main reason that's gonna be a good thing is wind. Both of us have gotten to productions where we've ended up having to just sit there and you know, we're still paid because we had to be there and we can't really control the wind. But it doesn't look good. It's not a good thing when it's disappointing. I'm not happy when I'm sitting there getting paid. I'd rather be flying. I've taken the Inspire up a lot of times in conditions so far that I would not take the Phantom in, that I certainly wouldn't take it up expecting great footage. Again, the windier it gets, the rougher the footage is going to be, at least on my craft, and I think a lot of other people's crafts too. But the Inspire can just handle a lot more wind because it has that extra weight. And actually, I'm going to cut to a little shot of the very, very first day I flew it, which was a day at the port, and it was an incredibly windy day, and it just handled it really, really amazingly. You can see the gimbal moving around like crazy, but the footage from it just is really quite good. So definitely a huge plus with its ability to handle the wind. I should mention too, going back to that first day I flew it, the props you see on it right now, by the way, are the self-tightening props. Apparently they've recently released an update because these are dangerous. They could fly off during flight. And I believe that because actually the very first flight, the very first time I tried to take off with it, I started up the motor and the propeller one of the propellers just flew straight up in the air, which is a lot better than it happening in the air, obviously. But at the very least, if you have these propellers, you know, on the Phantom, you pretty much just spin them on. But on this one, make sure you definitely give them a nice, tight, firm squeeze to make sure they're on there tight. Apart from that, so that's wind. That's the second main reason we got the Inspire over the Phantom. And then the third reason is actually kind of a sad reason. It's the fact that the Phantom is just so popular now and it is so cheap. It has nothing to do, again, it's an amazing aircraft. The camera is pretty much about the same as this one, supposedly. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's really, really great. I would use it. You can see the shots we were getting, or actually, as I say, Cliff is getting with his reel. They're amazing. I mean, it shouldn't matter what it's shot on, but at the end of the day, we were finding that when people were finding out we had Phantoms, they were less interested. So, especially me, you know, I mean, for some of the jobs he's gotten me, it's been okay because he's vouching for me, but just as someone else just going out there trying to get a job from somebody with a Phantom, it's tough. You got to really have a great reel. Otherwise, and even with a great reel, they hear you have a Phantom, you know, they don't want to spend the sort of money that you're looking for. If they're going to spend that money, they think they want something much, much better. So it's kind of a sad thing there. Again, nothing bad about the Phantom 3. I think it's amazing, but it's going to disqualify you from some more serious work if you're trying to work professionally with these things. One last thing that I do want to talk about, and it's something that we waited for, and it's the reason we ultimately decided to definitely get this over the Phantom 3 when we heard the Phantom 3 was coming out, is the camera on the Phantom 3. It's supposedly supposed to be about the same as the Inspire 1 camera. And again, that was actually, Cliff was kind of opposed to getting the Inspire 1 at first because he had heard it wasn't quite as good as the GoPro, and that's, you know, we're talking about when you're dealing with color grading, and you know, if you're just shooting and you're displaying it right on your TV, this is going to be definitely better. But if you're doing color grading, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to do some tests. I think this actually is just as good as the GoPro Hero 4 overall, ignoring the POV stuff with the focal length and everything like that. Again, it's about getting the best of the best, and that was our hope with the Phantom 3, is that we can get a Phantom 3 and then still attach a GoPro on it. And what's even worse is, unlike this one, the camera comes off and the gimbal comes off. It doesn't look like it comes off on the Phantom 3 as easily. It doesn't look like they're going to be updating it with, you know, you can buy the new updated camera for the Phantom 3. I think you're stuck with that camera as long as you have the Phantom 3. With this one, at least, you know, in a year or something, when they upgrade it to either, you know, a 6K camera or something like that, we're probably going to be getting that, and we can put it right on here, even if it means, you know, a special camera that, you know, I'm sure I'll be getting a GoPro Hero 5 anyway, but we just have to get a special camera for the drone because, again, it's worth it. on the Phantom 3, you're kind of a little bit more locked in than you are with this thing even. So not too interested there. The only other thing that you might be interested in, I haven't looked too much into it, is the Solo. I think, what is it, 3D Robotics, I think it is. That is pretty much a new kind of comparable Phantom 3, but without a camera stuck on it, which looks pretty cool. So I think that is about it. That is the new Inspire 1. That's why we got it. That is why I have it. And that's what's going to be coming up next. Like I said, I'm going to have an indoor flight here coming up right away, hopefully in the next few days. And then I'm going to be having it quite a bit, and I'm going to be making the most of my time with it. So it's a cool thing, and I'm flying it around and having fun with it. So those things are going to be coming up next. And don't worry, too, I do still have my, here we have my old Phantom 1, and as you can see, I have done quite a few changes to it, and we're going to have updates on that coming up next. Well, not next, I don't know why I said that. It's going to be coming up soon, hopefully. I definitely still have it. Again, I don't have this full time. I'm definitely still using this, and I'm going to definitely do a little bit more work on that one too. So that is going to be coming up next as well. Apart from that, that is going to be the end of this video, guys. Thank you for watching.